Hey, it's Greg Berzinsky from Beardbrand Alliance, and we're starting a new series, Case Studies. And we have
Nate Reed.
And Nate obviously is brought here because of what's growing on his face, obviously. And what Nate represents is a couple of things, in my opinion. Obviously, an amazing beard, but he also represents maybe the journey to getting this beard is probably not too typical.
I guess the COVID is what I can thank for this beard. When we were thrown out of my workplace for 2 weeks to slow the spread, it ended up being sort of 2 weeks, then 2 months, and I decided, well, I'll just shave when I go back to the office. And that ended up being a year, 2 years, and now we're almost 3 years in. I've been to the office now 4 times in 3 years, and once I was this invested, it didn't seem like it needed to come off to go back to work.
It's funny because I actually met Nate prior to COVID. I think that's when we first met, and you had, I think, a very short or nothing. I don't even remember.
Yeah, just I kept sort of just stubble length. Up to that point. Yeah,
and then I actually just saw him for the first time a few weeks ago and was blown away about what is on his face.
I had a bad looking goatee in high school, and that's about the closest thing to length that I ever sported.
So, what prevented you from growing a beard?
I don't think I had any interest, in sort of really growing a beard until it became, just first laziness and then a challenge, and then as it grew and became something, it was more interesting.
Can I ask how old you are?
I'm 43 now.
43, okay. So 40 years, or so let's say you were capable of growing a beard for at least 25 years, and you never grew a significant beard.
No.
So we have COVID to thank for that. I had done a series of, what does your 6-month COVID beard look like, 9 months, and then we stopped at a year because a lot of people actually stopped growing their COVID beards, whether they went back to work or they just okay, I hit a year and I fulfilled my challenge, my personal challenge, and all the guys didn't stick with it. I have to admit, you are the first guy who stuck with a significant beard. Have you cut? I mean, is this the terminal length or?
No, for a while it was, we considered it sort of a measurement of time. So this is how long I've been out of the office. But over the last 2 years, I think I've had cut 3 times now, and probably 2 to 3 inches taken off
each time.
Each time, yeah.
Okay, 3 times?
Yeah.
So 6 to 9 inches?
Yeah, probably closer to 6 than 9.
Okay. So obviously we have a beard here that is nowhere. It's not going terminal. I mean.
Yeah, not as far as it's indicated so far.
Most guys actually do go terminal at about a year. Some guys make it to 2 years. It's rare that you see a guy with a beard this thick, and then you would have had 6 inches on this. This is, just you're one of those guys who have the potential to grow a significant beard.
Well, I guess we'll see what we do the next year.
Yeah, are you gonna keep it going?
Originally no, but it's become it's almost its own personality. So I'm now curious to see what it does. I'll probably go another year and then see.
As far as work, do you think it's what do you do in general?
A marketing manager for a software company. So it doesn't. Almost all of my work is remote. It's literally become almost an icon. At my work, my professional headshots without a beard, and after 2 years, most of my colleagues were asking for, you have to update your headshot. You have to update your headshot.
Yeah.
So now it gets updated, seasonally. In the summer there was a flower in it. At Christmas, you need to update the beard. So now there's a beard shot with a candy cane in it. So it's becoming, I don't know, it's a caricature of itself. Even collared shirts. I think I'm wearing one now, but typically,
who wouldn't know? Bow tie. Who wouldn't know?
Right, a black.
Even a tie at this point.
Yeah. I ended up attending a black tie event in October, and there's almost no semblance that there's a tie underneath it here. I bumped into our CEO recently at an event, and I was going to a fancy black tie wedding, at a social club here in Philadelphia, and I asked him what he would do, because the debate at my household is do we have to trim it off to really be, I don't know, the right level of clean cut for a black tie wedding. And that was sort of months in the sort of hemming and hawing. And after bumping into our CEO, who said, he's like, well, have you been to the place? Every portrait in that place is full of men with beards. All the founding members probably had beards.
So it's interesting that you are more concerned about how your beard would present itself at a black tie wedding than what it presents itself professionally. So it's not an issue. It's not an issue.
Well, the black tie wedding sort of is tied into my wife's profession, so that it's rare that we're ever seen together. And so now, I had to walk that line.
Right.
What
So
you keeps my wife happy.
You mentioned your wife. Like, what does she think of the beard? Because a lot of guys are reluctant to grow a beard because a spouse may object. People know, like, my wife wasn't crazy about my beard for years, so she actually likes it now. But it's a question of she wants me to keep my mustache short, or particularly groomed.
Okay.
She doesn't want it hanging over the lips at all. But now I'm significantly known for having a beard. And so she's okay with it. No, after 8 years, she's okay with it.
Yeah.
But you were, a stubble beard or nothing your entire life, and then all of a sudden you have this. I mean, what is her opinion?
I think originally it was in that awkward grow out phase where it never, where it doesn't have enough length or it doesn't have enough,
This length, right? This awkward growing length?
I think mine's a little curlier, so like about that length, mine's just more bushy.
Okay.
It's more like a rounded, clown face. At that period, wasn't a big fan, but once it got a little bit longer, and really, I get stopped everywhere. About the beard. I basically joined a club that I didn't know was looking for me as a member. So whether it's been elderly women on the street asking
elderly women love beards. They do.
My favorite one is like some woman says, "Hey, are you part of the Philadelphia Beard Mustache Club?" I had never heard of it. I didn't know there was a club. And then she proceeds to say, like, "Oh man, I used to pal around with those guys," like she had stories to tell. Right. So I've not met the club or looked it up yet, but ever since then I've been curious about whatever that club is. As those things happen, as people sort of seem to comment on it, I would say it's grown on my wife to the point that we went away this summer. For a month, and I was going to shave it off before vacation, and she was like, "No, you got to keep it," and I wasn't expecting that as a response. So
that's great.
I think she enjoys the attention, maybe as much as I do.
Yeah, people. So people ask me all the time, does your wife hate that people know who you are or recognize you or compliment your beard and everything? And she doesn't. She actually I think she likes it too, because at this point people recognize her too from my Instagram account. So I think it's not a bad thing for us. One of the first reasons I brought you on here, remarkable beard, but also it's a beard that has a texture that a lot of guys are, I have to say, hell-bent on removing from their beards, and that is a significant amount of wave or curl. So did you brush your beard before you came here?
I did not.
So this is your natural...
Yeah, this is showered this morning, and that's it.
Yeah. So a lot of guys, and I don't know if I promoted that by my technique of rolling my beard under. I've never been a proponent of straightening a beard, and I'm always envious of guys who have a little more wave in their beard. Yeah. And so, and a lot of guys, and there's certain cultures where they want straight beards, and so. I thought yours is a great example of having a significant amount of wave or curl. And then it's okay to have wave and curl in your beard. But you brought up a good point before, because when you do have a curly beard, it can present some challenges early in the bearding process.
Yeah.
And even, a lot of guys' beards tend to be a little wider until you get some weight on the hair to pull it down. And it's with weight and then even putting some product on, some beard oil on a beard will actually add weight to your beard and pull it down a little bit. And so that's one thing to keep in mind if you are a guy who has curly beard, that it's probably better to let it grow a little longer or keep it really short, because it's in the middle when it's a 2-inch beard.
Yeah,
it's going to stand out.
Right.
Yeah, and so that's just one thing to keep in mind. And but once you get past, I think I would say 8 months, 4-inch beard, or is it still sticking out at that point?
I would say for me, probably more around a 6-inch beard is, that, and then maybe the first grooming where like the sides really came out. So having that kind of trimmed down, once those then regrew it formed a little bit more.
So when was the last time you had it trimmed?
Well, just before that wedding. October is probably I had 2 or 3 inches taken off.
But anything up here?
Just kind of trimmed and tightened up here, especially initially. Initially, it was all like this big round ball. So as they took that off, but since then I've talked a couple times with the barber. Like, can you almost fade this in more? But they've kind of pushed back. I think every time to say like, well, if you do that, as this gets wider, it just ends up being this weird shape. So I've left it.
That's a smart barber, that you don't have to necessarily, because you have the length pulling it down at this point.
Yeah.
The only place, and I can see that in your case, if you can just turn sideways to the camera a little more. Like, he has a little bit of fade at the top of the sideburns. And I just had my hair cut, and he did the same thing. He just pulled down the fade a little bit, and then not pulling it in to the rest of the beard. So I think that's a good thing to do. If you do have a curly beard, letting it grow and refrain from constantly maybe cutting the sides to make it narrower, because in time it actually can present itself as narrower when you get some weight on it. You might not get to the point where you're at a 14-inch beard, but by 8 months, 9 months, your beard will have some weight on it and will pull straight. Or not straighter, but the weight will hold it down a little bit. Cool. I'm sitting here looking at it. It's pretty cool. It's just pretty cool. I'm envious of guys who do have curlier beards. That's why I'm like, don't straighten your beard, because I'm envious of the fact that certain guys do have curly beards. There's this guy, and he basically looks like a Greek philosopher. He has a very curly beard and has let it go natural. I think that's a good example of once you get past an awkward phase, the hair can kind of get a little longer. So thanks, Nate, for coming over and
thanks, Greg.
speaking to us, and just remarkably wearing the remarkable follicles on your face that you have. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
So until we meet again.
Hey, I'm glad you've been watching these Alliance videos. Woo, good job. Hey, do yourself a favor. Treat yourself to a little treat and come join us. Join us at the Alliance. We would love to have you. See you soon.